Hey friends, Simon Hurley here and welcome to tonight's live show. Happy Monday, I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. My weekend was a bit interesting here in Wisconsin. We had major flash flooding all weekend, so it was kind of crazy. Thankfully, I wasn't too badly affected. There were lots of areas around us that were roads closed and everything was completely flooded. So I just wanted to say at the top of the show, thanks for reaching out to me if you did. We're completely safe. But if any of you guys are in Wisconsin, I'm thinking of you, praying for you, and sending you hugs. And hopefully you guys weren't too badly affected either. Now let's get into today's crafting. I wanted to share a monochromatic technique using one ink color and show you just how to get a ton of use out of it when we're creating our cards. And stick with kind of one color palette for each card. I just saw Gina K do this and I got her blessing to share the technique with you as well. If you want to check out her recent live stream sharing this, I also have that linked down below so you can check it out afterwards. It was a ton of fun to watch. So I thought I would share that as well. And of course, you guys know, I'm going to be using my SBC Fest kit today. I'm not even supposed to be using it this much really before SBC Fest happens. But this is such a great grouping of products that we had designed for SBC Fest. I wanted to get my use out of it before it sold out, because this is an exclusive product selection here that's never coming back once it does sell out. There's only a few hundred left, so we're running low. So if you've wanted it from scrapbook.com, now is your time to check it out. But yeah, like I said, I really wanted to get a lot of crafting in with it because I love the florals and the stencil and embossing folder that we designed for this. It's just gorgeous. So I wanted to keep sharing even more techniques with it. So for the first card, I'm going to use my SBC Fest kit. And for the second card, we're going to use some other supplies. So you can really use whatever you have at home, even if you don't have this kit along with you. Let's turn on my work surface. I'm going to show you the kit quick and then we'll jump right into it. So I know you guys have probably already seen the kit before because we've been doing lots of lives with it, which means if you ordered the kit already, you can create some really amazing cards with some of the great inspiration that I've been sharing using the kit. So many of you guys, yeah, Mary Kay said she's excited to use the kit. She got it the first day that it launched. And Cordelia says she doesn't usually buy a kit, but she had to have this one. It's really a fun one. So we designed this exclusive embossing folder, which has these really beautiful painted florals in it that creates this kind of border across your card. But this one is a 3D and cut. So it also has a die that's included inside of here alongside the butterfly die set that cuts right along the edge to give you that really beautiful floral detailed edge. There's even a set of stencils inside of here that colors it in with 4 different layers to go on top of the embossing folder. And then you have the butterfly die set, which creates these painted looking layered butterflies, and some really fun supplies from Ranger as well. We have different mediums like the solar spray in Pity Party. We have the slippery and wet Astro Paste in the 1-ounce jar. And then we also have this, which is exclusive for now. We'll be launching it later on, but this is the Phoenix Feather Astro Paste. It's gorgeous. It's like a clear paste, but it's got some really great like golden, iridescent, warm, glowing glitter in it, which is absolutely beautiful. So like I said, all of this stuff that we designed in here is completely exclusive to this kit. Once it's sold out, it's gone. So if you've been eyeing it up, like I said, they have kind of a low stock warning that they gave me. They don't know how long it's going to last. So they want me to tell you, go buy it if you actually want it. So we're going to be using actually all of this stuff in today's card making technique. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to go into my Stark White cardstock sampler pack. This is what I've really been using lately. And this is great because if you guys have ever wanted to try out my cardstock but you weren't quite sure about it, this is a great way to test it out. Inside of here, there is 2 full sheets of the cardstock, 4 card panels, and then 2 top folding and 2 side folding card bases. So it's a really great way to kind of test things out with the cardstock. So if you end up loving it, then of course you could buy it in a bigger pack, but this is a great way to kind of test it and try it to see if you like it. Okay, so then let's go in. I'm going to trim down my cardstock quickly. So with this embossing folder, it's sized perfectly for a Scout die cutting machine, but of course you could use it in whatever die cutting machine you want to. So it's going to be 3 inches, and the actual design portion is gonna be like 7 1/4 inches, right around there, because it doesn't go fully to the top or bottom because of the die that was inside of there. So we're gonna go kind of hot dog style in with our Stark White cardstock, and we're gonna cut it down to 3 inches. And then we'll cut it right down to a little over 7 1/4. So we'll cut it down there. Perfect. And you can get 2 more of these pieces of cardstock to cut out for your Scout embossing folder. So you'll get 3 out of a sheet of A2 size cardstock. Okay. So once that's cut down, let's get into embossing. So to emboss this, if you want to emboss and cut, you'll go into that butterfly set and grab the die right out of here. And then in order to attach the die to the embossing folder, you're going to open the embossing folder and turn it so that the printed side with my name and the title is facing down on your work surface. This side of the embossing folder has this kind of like etched indentation in it that's going to allow for that die to sit in it. It's not on the other side, so it's only on this side that it's going to work with the printing on it. So we'll grab our die that goes along with, and we're going to place it right along that edge of that kind of etched line there. And when you press it against that edge, you'll know that it's aligned when it doesn't move. So once it's kind of locked in there, you'll feel it lock into place. And then I like to go in with my scrapbook.com mint tape, and I'll just grab 2 little pieces of that mint tape and tape it in right at the top and bottom of the embossing folder to hold it in place so that it doesn't move while we run it through our die cutting machine. So that is perfect. That's going to hold that in place really nicely. Now, whenever I do 3D embossing with an embossing folder, I like to go in with my cardstock and I just mist it down like once or twice on each side. Just enough, not so that it's sopping wet, but so that it's a little bit damp so that it can mold to the design of the embossing folder. If you ever struggle with your cardstock ripping or cracking, this is the way to help avoid that. So then we can go in and line this right up into our embossing folder with that design. And then we'll close it right on the folder. That should be good. And then we can run this right through our die cutting machine. Now I'm going to be using my Platinum Scout. This is the black little machine that I designed with Spellbinders. You can use whatever die cutting machine that you want to. Now when it comes to a Platinum machine from Spellbinders, you want to remove all the plates except for the A platform base. We'll place this right inside. Then we'll go in with our embossing folder, that Painted Blooms folder. And then we'll go in with the D adapter plate. So this is that hard gray plate. It came along with your Scout machine, and you'll place that right on top. And then you can run this through the die cutting machine. Now this is the perfect sandwich for the 3D embossing folders through the Scout Platinum machine. But if you're using any other die cutting machine or other brand of folders, you'll want to look with the manufacturer to see what that folder needs, because every folder has slightly different thicknesses to it depending on the company that makes it. So you'll want to make sure to check with the manufacturer. All right, so then let's go in. We're going to lift this right out of here. Oh my gosh, this never gets old. It's absolutely gorgeous the way that's embossed with so much great dimension there. And then in order to kind of release the die, since I cut the cardstock just a little bit bigger than the actual folder, I'm gonna just go in here with a little scissors and just trim it out, and that releases it. And that's perfectly cut out with that really great border edge. And I love how that looked. It finishes it off really nicely there. All right, then we can set all of this off to the side. And we'll go in and start our kind of like monochrome technique. This is going to be so much fun. So to do the ink blending, I'm going to bring in my Altenew sticky mat. This is, I believe, the 9x12 edition of the mat. I love this one because it's nice and large, so it can hold down your project, but it'll also hold down like your ink pads and your stencils as you set things to the side. So I'll just stick that down into place, and then we'll go in with the coordinating stencil set that's also along in the kit. So this has 4 different pieces along with the stencils. They're numbered, so if you see those numbers, you know that you're on the right track with lining things up. So I'm going to take stencil number 1 and just place this right down over top of the embossed florals. Just line it up really easily with that design. And it lines up beautifully. And then we'll just place the edges down into the sticky mat to make sure that things don't move. Okay, and then we're gonna go in, and I want the outside edge to be the darkest for the florals. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Shady to start out with. The 2 gray colors that I'm gonna be using are Shady and Woof for this to kind of create that monochrome effect. You could just use 1 ink pad if you want to for the whole thing, but I'm gonna use a little bit of both of these. And actually, I think that I'm gonna use a little bit of Shady for the leaves, and then I'll keep Woof for the actual florals. I think that'll be fun. Actually, let's switch that around. I'm gonna do Shady for the florals and we'll do Woof for the leaves. Is that good? No, let me do the other way around. I'm indecisive. You guys are seeing that live now here. Okay, so let's go in and I'm just going to ink this up. I'm using the Simon Hurley inks. I can't wait until these come out in the Stellar inks as well, but you can totally mix and match the Simon Hurley and the Stellar inks. They're both the same formula, so they'll work very similarly. And then I'm going to go in and just tap off my brush to make sure that I have it nice and light. All right, because I'm gonna do the lightest color for this edge. And yes, you're gonna do the smooth side up for this mat. So this mat has kind of like gridded areas on the back of it. That's to keep it from sticking down too much to your surface. So you'll place that gridded area down and then the smooth side facing upward. Yep. All right, so I'm tapping off the color just to make sure it's nice and light. And it's not gonna look like a ton right now because it's such a light gray color that we're going in with, since we're tapping it off to the side first, but we'll build the color up to make it much darker. All right. So we'll just go in and blend this out. Right now I'm using the Simon Hurley medium blending brushes. These aren't available right now. They're actually sold out, but they'll be back in stock pretty soon, hopefully this month, and then I'll be able to share that with you. So they've been my favorite right now, just because the handle's at the top, so you can really have as much control as you want with how much pressure you're applying to add down your colors. All right, I think that should be good. Let me lift this up slightly. Let me do a little bit more, just a slight bit more here. And blend that down. And they're really easy to use, these brushes, they're great. All right, I think that looks good. So it's a really light amount of ink, just because I don't want it to get too dark, but when you're looking through a stencil and you're blending white with the super light gray, it doesn't look like much until you peel it off, and then you can really see the difference. So we got our nice light gray color going on there. I think that looks great. Then let's go in with our next stencil. So we're gonna go in with stencil number 2. Again, you know that it's the right way if you can read that number all the way through. And then we'll go in and line it up with our design really easily. Just line it up across the card. All right, that looks great. Yes, Pam says she's anxiously awaiting for the brush restock. I know, they sold out really fast when they first came out, so I'm really anxiously awaiting it as well. All right, so then let's go in here. I'm gonna tap off still a little bit, and then here we'll go in just a little bit heavier handed with the same color. So I'm still using Woof, so it's that same warm tone gray, but I'm going in a lot firmer. That's where these brushes really come into handy. I'm pressing a lot harder than I was before. Sometimes with other brushes, with the handle being on the side, if you press down, it's gonna like bend, but it's not really going to apply much more pressure. So that's where I really like these, because going from the top, you can really apply a lot more pressure down, and that helps to get a lot more color. So when you're using one ink pad, it really gives you a lot of versatility to make sure that you can add as much color as you want with that pressure. All right, so there we go. I've applied more pressure and we got a much darker color. So really cool that we're able to use that same ink color and just darken it with a little bit more ink and a little more pressure, and you get a much, much darker shade of that color. All right, next I'm gonna go in with stencil number 4. I actually skipped stencil number 3 because stencil number 3 is the leaves, and I'm gonna decide what I wanna do with that after I do the centers of these flowers, which the centers are on layer number 4. So we'll just go in, line that up perfectly with the centers of the flowers, and it also colors in some of the leaf and stem areas, so you just want to make sure to avoid those. I'm going to go in with a smaller blending brush for this layer. These are the Altenew detail blending brushes. They come in a pack of 4, and these are really nice for getting into littler areas. So I'm going to go in here and tap off to the side, but I want this center to actually be the darkest, so I don't really need to tap off to the side too much, and I'll just go in and really apply a dark layer of color down. I think that looks great. That looks awesome with that really dark ink. And again, it's the same Woof color, but I'm just going in and applying it much darker, much heavier handed. And you're getting that really beautiful depth and dimension. That's what's awesome with these inks, is that when you layer them up, they're a translucent dye-based ink. So each layer of that ink is just gonna layer up and make it darker and darker on top of each other. And the stark white cardstock also helps with that too, because my cardstock is completely uncoated. So there's no coating on here that's gonna stop the ink from seeping in and creating that really great look. All right, I think I'm gonna just stick with Woof. I don't think that I'm gonna use Shady here actually. Unless should it be 2 different gray tones? I think it should just be 1. I think that'll be fun. So for the rest of these stems, I'm also gonna go in with my detail blending tool and that same Woof color and go in, you know, pretty heavy-handed, because these are gonna be the dark areas of the stems. So just go in nice and dark and go all over this layer. Yes, Woof is such a great gray color. It's kind of that warm tone gray, and it works beautifully for things like this. I like the warmth that it gives to the project. Shady is a little bit cooler of a gray, and it's a lot darker. It's almost like a charcoal kind of color, so it's really gonna give a different effect. So I think that just bringing in, or sticking with just the 1 ink pad here and getting so much variation shows you, number 1, that you really have a lot of versatility with each and every single color, with how much pressure you apply and how much color you're adding down, but also that you don't need to use a bunch of colors on this for the monochrome look. Okay, cool. I think that looks great. Let's lift that off. That's looking amazing. So we got a lot of the details in on those leaves. And then for the last layer, which is layer number 3 actually, because I skipped around, you wanna make sure you can read that number 3. And then we'll go in here and line that right over top of the leaves. All right, and then place that down into the sticky mat. I love the ink name Shady too, it's so fun. Okay, and then we'll go in here and tap off just because I want a lighter version of that Shady, or that Woof color all over those leaves. And just blend all throughout to get a really nice light color. And then if you want to, you could go in and add a little bit more depth on the same layer. So sometimes I like to do that just to give it a little more dimension. So if I want to, I can go in using some of that Woof color, and I'll just go in onto like the center or like the base of those leaves and just add a little bit more depth to those areas. So if you want to, that's your choice. You don't have to do this step, but sometimes it just adds even a little more dimension to things. You guys know, I love taking a little bit more time with each and every step just to add some more life and dimension to everything. Okay. And so that's where they would naturally have more shading, is like where they're coming from the stem. So that's where I'll just add a little bit of depth there. All right, cool. I think that is gonna look great. I'm excited to peel this off and reveal it. Oh wow, I love that. That is gorgeous, that kind of monochrome look with these florals and leaves. I maybe wish I went a little lighter on some of those leaves. So maybe the shading wasn't the greatest idea because we went really light on the florals, but I still think it's very pretty. It gives kind of like a vintage look to it. I think that's a lot of fun. You could do this in browns or blues. You know how like they have that kind of painted china? I think that would be really fun to do that on here as well. All right, I love that. So let's go in here to clean this mat off. If you have one of these sticky mats, I just spray it down with a little bit of water to remove the ink. And then I just go in with a paper towel or anything that's not gonna like leave fuzzes all over here, and just wipe it off. And then once that water evaporates, it becomes nice and sticky again. And I've been using this mat for months and months. Mine is pretty dingy right now, but it still is pretty sticky, so it works really well. I love these mats. And I actually store mine right inside of this scrapbook.com zipper pouch. And this is great because you can put it right inside of here and it keeps the dust away. These are the large zipper pouches, I believe, but they're really great for this. Keeps your mat nice and clean. So I'll have those linked after the live. I forgot to link those mats or those pouches, but those are really great. So for this, I want to create a butterfly to go on top of this. So let's go in here with my Scout machine, and I'm going to go in with my plates. So we'll bring back in all of my die cutting plates. So that B platform, and then my smoky gray plates that come along with the Scout. We'll place that in here. And I'm gonna use that butterfly, that painted butterfly die set. So I'm gonna use this smaller butterfly here. So we'll go in with this. And then let's see, I'm also gonna use the hello and the body of the butterfly. For this, I like to go in with the Spellbinders Color Wheel cardstock. I love this stuff. It works really beautifully, and there's so many great colors to choose from. So I'm gonna do, let's see, should I do this gray color? I think that'll be good. So we'll do this gray, and then let's do this white as well. And we'll color this in with a little bit of lighter gray. All right, I think that should be good. And then you don't need to use every single layer. So for today's project, I think that I'm gonna skip out on using this outermost shadow layer and just use the 2 inside pieces. The outermost shadow layer can just give a little bit more depth and dimension if needed, but I think this will be beautiful just as is with these. So we'll go in with our gray and our white. And I think I'm gonna use this for the sentiment too, because everything's monochrome, so I don't wanna do any black on here to make it too harsh. So I'm gonna go in with the dark gray on the outside piece, or that's the middle die. And then for the most detailed painted layer, I'm gonna go in with the white cardstock. And then for the body, let's see, for the body, I'll go in with the gray too, and I'll add even more color to it with Shady. And then for this, for the shadow, for the word, I'm gonna go in with the gray, and then I'll use the white for the detailed hello. All right, then we'll go in here and die cut this out. I know the hello is the perfect size, I agree. They sized it really well for this kit, and I think the butterflies work really well with the size of the florals too. My team at Spellbinders is amazing at designing stuff and really helping to bring the ideas to life, and they did such a phenomenal job on this kit. That's why I can't stop using it, really. I'm being honest, like I'm not forced to use it. They actually really told me I didn't have to use it before SBC Fest and kind of recommended not to. But I wanted to show you guys just so much inspiration with it and show you really how to use it a bunch of times before SBC Fest even came. So then I'm gonna go in here and pull this out. And a reminder, SBC Fest is on September 12th on the scrapbook.com YouTube channel. So be sure to watch over there if you've gotten this kit. I'm gonna go in with this die cutting pick to pull out some of these pieces. I'm getting more professional. The other day I was throwing around my dies, as you guys saw, but they didn't even pop out when I did that. So today we're using the die pick to get things out. And this hello is very detailed. So I'm gonna use that craft pick to get it out too. Because this is a very fine font, but it's really beautiful once it's out of here. Okay. We'll pull this right out, pop out the inside pieces of that. That looks great. All right, then let's put things together. So for this butterfly, I want to, did I cut out the body? Oh yeah, good, okay. So for the butterfly, I'm gonna add a little bit of ink to things to make them separated from the last layer. So let's go in with a little bit of ink on these 2 pieces right here and on the body. So to do this, I'm just gonna go in, actually no, wait, I was gonna add ink to this, but I'll add ink a little bit to this too. So for this, I'm gonna add a little bit of Shady for the body because I want that to be a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Shady, and that's just gonna coat that whole piece in a darker gray color. So if you don't have the correct color cardstock, sometimes ink can be really helpful for that. So that's gonna make the body a little bit darker, but not quite black. So it'll still go along with our kind of charcoal theme of our card here. And then for this, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of that excess ink and just add that to the center to make it a little bit darker, make it look like it's got some shading to the center. And then for this piece, I want this to be that lighter gray color. So I'm going in with a little bit of Woof, and I'm just going to add some shading towards the center. So we'll tap off any of the excess and just add some of the light gray right into the center of that die cut. I think that looks great, and then keep the outside kind of nice and light with that white. All right, and then we'll go in and clean some of this up, and we'll use some glue to add our pieces together. For this, I'm gonna use some Barely Arts liquid glue. I really like this because it's got a really great fine point nib on it. So this is like my favorite glue right now for adding all my stuff together. And it's a great formula too, it dries pretty quickly. So I'm gonna go in here and add some of that down to the painted inside piece. Okay, and then I'll add this right to the center of that butterfly. And that goes on perfectly. I love this butterfly because it really matches the kit so well. because these florals look really painted and this inside detail kind of matches up with the florals. So that's what I love. That's what makes this butterfly a little bit different. Now I'm also going to go in with a little bit of Astro Paste because this was along in the kit too. And I'm using the Phoenix feather. Like I said, don't use all of your paste beforehand, but I'm just using little bits of it for techniques like this. And a little bit goes a really long way with this stuff. So I'm just gonna dip my finger into it. A tiny little bit goes a really long way when it comes to my Astro Pastes. And I'm just gonna tap some glitter onto the center and kind of like fade it out into the butterfly a little bit. And that's just gonna add a little bit of sparkle and shine, but it doesn't take away from any color because it's gonna dry nice and clear, but it's got that really great iridescent look to it. All right, beautiful. That folder, is that what we're asking? Yes, the folder is 3 inches in width to fit inside of that Scout machine. Yep, that's exactly the size. All right, and then for the body of the butterfly, we'll go in, we'll add a little bit of liquid glue down and add it right to the center. Beautiful. I love that. And then we'll go in and add our hello die together. And I love this little hello die. This is so versatile. So I love that we're able to add a sentiment in here. And I use hello cards all the time, just checking in on people or, you know, even just like reaching out anytime for like thanking for a favor or wanting to get coffee. Hello is like the perfect sentiment. So we thought it was probably the most versatile to use. And we wanted to add that into the kit. And then I'll stick that right down onto the shadow die. Okay, I love that. That looks great. And then let's go in and put everything together. So to put things together, again, I'm gonna go back into that sampler pack. We also do card bases already pre-cut and done for you in other larger packs as well. So if you like that sampler pack and you want more, we have pre-cut and scored card bases just like this. So this is the side folding one. So all you need to do is fold with that crease going inward. And then you just take your bone folder and fold it right down. And I love things like that because it just makes it nice and easy. The Stark White cardstock is super thick, so it's a really great weight, but then it doesn't take you out of your crafting in order to put everything together. Okay, then let's go in and trim this down just a little bit. With that folder, you're gonna have a little bit of an edge here that you just wanna trim off once you're done. All right. That way the design butts up to the edge perfectly. And then we can add this right down onto our card. And I think I'm gonna add it down with our liquid glue today. I've been doing a lot of foam tape for this design, but I think the liquid glue is gonna work really well in this instance because I don't want too much dimension on this one. But of course, if you want to, add foam tape if you want more dimension. Just go in with lots of liquid glue, and then I'm gonna add it right down to the side of my card. Just like this. And the folder is a lot longer than an A2 size card, so you really have a lot of room to play and make sure that it's perfect. All right, then I'll adhere that down. And then let's go in here and clean that up. I'm not sure, Julie, how much the individual scored and cut card bases are. I'm pretty sure they might be $5.99 or $4.99, somewhere around there, I'm guessing. So I'm gonna go in and trim this right off. Great. Just going in with my scissors to trim those top and bottom pieces right off. All right, and then we'll go in and we will adhere it together with the foam tape. So we'll go in here with a little bit of foam tape. I'm gonna go in with my Fiskars Spring Assist and trim a little piece off. This is gonna be for the butterfly. So we'll just add some foam tape right down to the center. And I just add it to the center so that the outside of the wings can still kind of flap up a little bit. So let's see, I'm gonna do right about there, right kind of in the center of the card. That looks good, kind of hanging on and off the edge of those florals. And then we'll also add down the hello Great. And glue it right down. Okay. And this little foam tape is going to pop it up really nicely off the card to give it a little bit of dimension. That looks awesome. All right. So there's our first card, again, using that SBC Fest kit. This kit is exclusive, so once it sells out, it's gone. So be sure to use the links down below if you haven't ordered the kit yet and you're interested now to check it out. That kit is absolutely gorgeous. I love the painted florals with all that texture from the embossing folder. Having that beautiful cut edge is amazing. And then all the stencils to color it in really bring it to life and make it look so gorgeous. And I love that on this entire card, we really only used that one color of ink. We used Woof and maybe just a little bit of Shady in that center there, but you could have gotten away with just using Woof. And I think that it's absolutely stunning. It looks really elegant, it kind of has a vintage black and white look to it. So I think that's so much fun. And then of course, finishing it off, that painted butterfly with the little bit of phoenix feather gives it a little bit of shine and makes it really stand out nicely off the card. That is so pretty. So yes, if you have the kit already, this is going to be amazing for you. If you want to get the kit, it's normally $61, and Scrapbook.com marked the kit down for $39.99. That's the price they've always been selling it at. Scrapbook.com is amazing at giving you guys discounts. So there really is such an amazing value inside of that kit. And of course, there's lots of inspiration that I've shared using it. And then if you do end up purchasing it, stay tuned for September 12th. Scrapbook.com is going to have their SBC Fest, and you'll get even more inspiration with a really great tutorial from me. I think it's gonna be a 1.5 hour class. So we create 3 cards in there. You get tons of inspiration with different techniques using the kit. So if you want it, definitely check that out. And if you have the kit already, definitely save it for that amazing card making class that we're going to do at SBC Fest. All right, let's jump into the next technique that we're going to do. So for the next technique, I'm actually using the same technique actually, but we're going to use a different color of ink and different supplies to do it. So to start off with, I'm using the Essential Stylish Ovals, which I've already pre-cut a piece of my stark white cardstock down. And this is in that beautiful oval shape. I've been using this a lot because it's just a great, instead of just doing a rectangle, it's a great kind of grounding place to do a background on. So I've been really loving the stylish oval dies, and there's quite a few different sizes to make with. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm going to use my sticky mat once again. So we'll just go in and open this up and pull out my Altenew sticky mat. Well, Cordelia says she took a vacation day for SBC Fest. Now, I like that. That's the mindset you gotta have, right? Take a vacation day, maybe say you're sick. That's a good way to get out of it, and then craft the whole day away. And if the family needs any lunch or dinner, you're ordering pizza that day because it's all about crafting that day. That's the mindset that I'm gonna have too. All right. So let's go in and stick this right down onto our sticky mat. Going to make sure it doesn't move at all. And then we'll go in with our stencils. So for my stencil set, I'm going to use the In Bloom stencil set from my Simon Hurley Create line. Now, when I'm creating with a stencil from my line, we actually recently have new stencil material. But all of our other stencils are made on a material that's glossy on one side and matte on the back. Now, if you're going to use any of a sticky mat, you're going to want to make sure you place the older stencils with that matte side facing up and that glossy side facing down towards the sticky mat. The matte side has kind of a coating on it, and if you place that matte side onto the sticky mat, it's going to remove that coating. It doesn't do anything to the stencil per se, besides make it translucent, and you don't really want that. So if you want your stencil to look perfect, you're going to place that glossy side facing down towards the sticky mat. All right, so we'll just go in and decide where we want this on here and line it up perfectly. All right. So once it's all nice and lined up, you can go in and stick it right down. Yes, send your husband out for a barbecue. That's a great idea too. It's good vacation time for crafting all day long. So I think for this, let's see, what should we use? I'm either going to use Midnight Snack or Clear Skies. And I think I'm going to use Midnight Snack. I think this is going to be pretty. Kind of having a darker color, and then for some other things we can go really dark and intense. So I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. For this, I'm gonna go in with my Midnight Snack blending brush. This is, again, a medium blending brush from my Simon Hurley Create line. These should be back in stock later this month. I can't wait to be able to share that with you when they come back. And for starters, since the outside floral is going to be the lightest, I'm gonna go in and just make sure this is nice and cleaned off, because I know that I used Midnight Snack on here last, so we wanna make sure it's nice and light. So we'll tap off lots of that color until we get it super light, and then go in on your background and start blending. Even that's a little dark, but I'm gonna go with it. I like that. So nice and light, and it's gonna give you kind of like this blue jeans look. I think that's cool. I love that. You know, no diving would be a really cool color for this too. No diving is more similar to kind of those like paintings that they have on the fine china. So if you want to do that too, that would be really fun for florals. All right, let's lift this off. Oh, I love that. Gorgeous already. Then we're gonna go in with stencil number 2. Again, flip the stencil over so the glossy side is facing down towards the sticky mat. And then we'll go in and line it up right on top of those florals. Now, these florals line up so that each of the petals are gonna go in between the last ones. So that's how this stencil is gonna line up really easily. So make sure it's all lined up and then place it right into your sticky mat. And then I'll tap on a little bit more ink this time. So we'll go a little bit darker for this layer and go in and blend this out. All right, tap off, because that's got a lot of ink in those stellar pads. So we'll tap off some of the excess and then go in and blend it down. All right, this is beautiful. I'm loving that already. Okay, that is gorgeous. Already looking stunning. And then finally, we'll go in with number 3. So again, look at the etchings, make sure that it says Bloom number 3, and then flip it so that glossy side is facing down. And then once again, we'll line it up and place it right over top. This is one of my favorite stencil sets that we've done. I think the cool part about this stencil set is that you can use all of these together to like layer them up like this, but you can also use them separate to create your own kind of individual designs. So I can show that after if you want me to. I'm gonna tap on even more ink here and get it really nice and dark for this last layer. And we'll just go in and blend that on. That is gorgeous. I love it. I'm obsessed with this. So beautiful. And then let's lift that off. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. If you want to make it even more intense, you can. Because Stark White cardstock doesn't have that coating on it, you can make it really, really dark. And these stellar inks are really easy to get ink. So again, a really light tap, and it's gonna give you tons of color. That's gorgeous. I love that. All right, so beautiful. And then if we want to, we can even go in with a little bit. Let's see, should we spray this? I think we should. Let's go in with a little bit of spray. So I'm gonna use Beluga. And before I spray this, I'm gonna lift it off the mat. And we'll just clean the mat quickly, because I don't wanna get any mica on my sticky mat. So we'll just go in. And wipe it off. Yes, you could do a layer of paste on the stencil too. I think that would be really pretty, but I'm gonna go in and give this a mist of Beluga. And whenever I use solar spray on a design like this, and I'm not going through the stencil, sometimes I want it to be more subtle. So I'm of course using that blue Beluga, but you can use purple or whatever color you want on here. And you're just going to want to shake your solar spray. All the solar sprays have a mixing ball inside of them, and they've got a bunch of mica at the bottom of them if they sit for a while. So you're gonna wanna move that mica, because if you spray it right now, it'll go up into that sprayer and clog it. We do sell replacement sprayers if it does get ruined, because it's kind of game over if it does that. So make sure to mix it up. So this is where I say the arm workout comes in. Whenever you're using solar sprays, you get a little bit of an arm workout, and we're gonna go in and mix that mica into here really easily. So it doesn't take too much time to mix this. You just really wanna make sure you don't see any of that mica on the bottom of the surface. And so like here, it's already perfectly mixed in and you're ready to spray. So it's not too bad, you just want to gently mix those around. Then I'm gonna go in, let me make sure this is spraying perfect, that looks great. And I'm gonna go in from like about a foot up, like maybe a foot or even, yeah, probably a foot off my work surface here. And I'm going to just lightly mist across the surface here, all right? That looks beautiful. Now there's one glob of spray in the center, but that's totally fine. If we want to, we can cover that up with something, but it kind of gives that mixed media look. But really it just gives a light shimmer and shine across the whole surface. That is gorgeous. All right, and to make those dry really quickly, when you do a light spray, it's already pretty much dry, but you can go in and heat set that too if you want to. It's gonna help dry it along. And yes, a solar spray does come along in the kit. I wanted to keep this monochrome, but you have a pity party solar spray along inside of that SBC Fest kit. So you could always spray kind of that light pink color over top of your project as well. Either one is gonna work perfect and look beautiful, but I just love that blue spray. But what the cool part about solar spray is it's pretty much translucent when you look at it straight on. It's not really affecting the ink too much. And then when you tilt it in the light, you get that really gorgeous blue shine. Hello, that's awesome. I love it. All right, let's go in here and mist that down, and then we'll go in and wipe it down off the surface. Beautiful. All right, then we're going to add some butterflies onto our project, but we're not using the butterflies from the kit. I wanted to kind of give it more of a vintage look. So I'm gonna go in with the beautiful bloom stamp set. This one is so much fun because inside of here is all of that black area is gonna give you kind of like a stippled effect. It's gonna almost look vintagey, like it was shaded from like an old printout or textbook. It's really a cool look. I love how these florals stamp out. But I'm gonna go in and stamp out the butterflies for today's card using my Stellar ink. And I'm not even gonna really color these in because they're pretty solid as is. And I think with that stamping, it'll give kind of that vintage look. So I'm gonna do this butterfly right here. And then let's also do, let's see, I like this guy right here. So let's do 2 butterflies, and then let's do the sentiment. Let's do Thinking of You. I can always use a Thinking of You card. I know that it's kind of sad, but I really do always use Thinking of You. So I'm gonna pull that out, and then we'll go in with my Simon Hurley acrylic blocks, pick these guys up, and we're ready to stamp them down then. And these acrylic blocks come in a pack of 2, so you have the large acrylic block, but you will also get one that's really a great size for sentiments. So I like to use these for sentiments. And I like that it's long still, but it's nice and small, so you can still get a good grip on it while still seeing what you're stamping. And these are like the perfect thickness too. So we'll go into here with a piece of my Stark White cardstock, and then we're gonna do our stamping using Midnight Snack again. Just so that it's, again, very monochrome. It's gonna blend in with the background really well. That was the technique today, so we wanna stick with it. And let's go in, lightly tap this. I did just re-ink these ink pads, so we'll see if it needs to be blotted off or how it's gonna stamp. All right, that's kind of cool. I know for a fact there's more detail in this, but I kind of don't mind that. It filled in some areas, but it did it really in kind of a cool vintage look, which is what I want. So I love this. I think that looks awesome, actually. But yeah, it definitely filled in some more areas. So if your stamp pad is filling in areas, just take the stamp pad and blot it off to the side. You won't need to do that too often, but if you just recently re-inked the ink pad and it's super juicy, you might want to blot it off a little bit. All right, let's go in then and tap on to this gorgeous butterfly. That is beautiful. And then we'll go in and stamp this guy down. Oh, I love that. Again, it maybe filled in a little more than it was supposed to, but it's kind of a cool look, right? I like that. Yes, the blocks, they are great. They have the lines on them too. They're like the perfect thickness. They're not too thin, not too thick. I call these my Goldilocks blocks. They're amazing. Okay, so then I'll just go in, spray these down with water to clean them off a little bit. And then we have a choice. So we could either, I think I'm just gonna stamp the sentiment straight down onto here in blue. Actually, we don't have a choice. We're stamping them down in that Midnight Snack color. So really light taps. I can tell that this ink pad is a little too juicy. Let's see how that sentiment stamps. If it stamps well, then we're okay. That's pretty good, actually. Not too bad. Okay. So there's that Thinking of You sentiment. And then again, we'll wipe it off with a little bit of water. And then we'll go in, and I'm just going to trim my cardstock down. I like these. These are the Spring Assist Tim Holtz ones. They're nice and large for things like this. We'll trim that down, and then Let's see, should we go in with a little bit of solar spray too on this? Just to make these stand out? Let's do it. Okay. I'm gonna shake this up again. In between, I'm gonna also shake it just to make sure there's no mica on there again, and just lightly mist these down. Again, using that beluga spray. Oh, I sprayed the sentiment, that was stupid. Well, I'll stamp another one of those, but everything else looks good. All right, and then look, it's got that nice blue shine to those butterflies too. That's really cool. Okay, and then with the sentiment, let me stamp it one more time. Using that midnight snack. Let me tap this out. Because I can just tell that there's just a little too much ink. You can tell when it's happening to you. So if you need to, just get rid of a little bit. Wipe off the stamp. And then we'll stamp it again. All right. That should work. Let's see. Let me do it one more time. I like splatted onto the stamp. The first one we stamped is perfect. You gotta go really light because this is super fine detailed. There we go, perfect. Really super light taps on such a fine line stamp like that. But once you get it, it looks perfect and super crisp image. All right, so let's go in and die cut these guys out. I just wanna make sure it's nice and dry from that solar spray. So we'll just go in, dry it off a little bit. Yes, the blues are gorgeous. I love them too. And then we'll go in and die cut this out using the matching set. So this is the coordinating die set from Spellbinders. And I'll just go in and grab the butterflies from this set. Look at me, I stuck my hand right into those inky stencils that we were just using. Okay, and then we'll pull this butterfly out. And then you just want to line them up with your image and then use a little bit of mint tape. And I love mint tape because it doesn't rip your cardstock even when going through a die cutting machine. So that's my favorite part about it. Some of the tapes I found rip my cardstock and this one just doesn't. So it works amazing. Does the solar spray make it run a little bit? Like a little? Just a little tiny bit. Like, can you see that spot that went over top of the ink? It ran just a little bit, but not much. Like, it doesn't affect the detail too much, especially if you're just doing a light spritz like that. If you're trying to make puddles, then of course it's going to react. But if you just do a light spritz over top, I find it doesn't react the ink a ton. I just didn't want it over that sentiment really. Okay, then we'll line this up with the other butterfly. Place that down. And then to die cut these, again, we're gonna bring in my die cutting machine. I love this little black Scout. It is the perfect size to have sentiments, but to keep it on your desk. I keep mine sitting right next to me at all times, and it's just perfect because it cuts out really most die cutting die cuts because it's got quite a large opening with that 3-inch opening. So it makes it perfect for this. All right, then we'll go in and pop these guys out. Look how beautifully that cut out. I just love coordinating dies. They save so much time. And we'll place these right back into that die set. Okay. And then we're gonna go in and fussy cut out the sentiment that we've done. So I like to just go in and fussy cut these out mainly because it gives it a more finished look, but it also offers more room rather than leaving it on like a large rectangle like this. I like to fussy cut it because then it gives you more room to see the actual design you created. So just going in and going around the sentiment. Now I love these Fiskars Spring Assist scissors for something like this. They really get into a lot of detail and those they spring right back out at you so your hands won't get tired as you're fussy cutting. So really the perfect pair of scissors for something small like this. Someone asked where I keep my hair dryer, or not hair dryer, the ink dryer. I keep it on the side of my desk and I make sure to have it on a power strip and turn it off before I leave my craft room so that nothing happens to it. Any powered tools like that, I always like to make sure they're off before you leave your craft room. Okay, so for this, I'm gonna go in with a top folding card base. I see there's a little more ink on here, so I wanna wipe that up before we go in and finish off the card. This is, again, that pre-cut and scored Simon Hurley Stark White cardstock, so all you need to do is crease it down on that score line, and then go in with your bone folder and fold it in place. Super easy to do. Then let's go in, and I'm gonna pop this up to add a little bit of dimension. So we'll go in with our foam tape. This is the Altenew foam tape. I can't sing enough praises about this foam tape. It's my favorite right now. I used to really use the 3M a ton, but this I found is stickier, but it's not too sticky to the point where it's like sticking all over your scissors and stuff. And the backing is easy to pull off. So this has been my fave. So if you've been looking for a good foam tape, I can recommend this Altenew foam tape. I really like it. And as a crafter, I've tried lots of foam tape, and most of it I don't really like, just because it's sometimes too sticky, and like the backer is hard to peel off or it'll gunk up your scissors, so this one's really great. I don't think you can rip this stuff, but it does cut well with the scissors, which is nice. Okay, yes, it reminds you of the blue and white porcelain pattern. Me too, that's why I made it. I thought that blue would be really pretty with the florals like this. So we'll just go in and line it up. Right in the center, and then adhere that down. So that gives you a little bit of dimension off the card. And then we'll go in with our butterflies and our thinking of you. So I think the thinking of you may be there. And then this butterfly will go like around it. And then we'll have this one flying this way. I like that. That's cool. That's a beautiful layout, I think. All right, I think that's really cool. So then I'll go in with a little bit more foam tape. Add it down to our butterflies, and again, right in the center, just so that the wings kind of pop up off the card. We'll add this guy down up here. Right like that, that's beautiful, I love it. And then we'll add this one down with, again, a little bit of foam tape right in the center. Okay, we'll make this go in the opposite direction. That's really pretty. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of foam tape on our sentiment. Okay, I'm loving this. Let's see, should we put it right there? I think that's cool. Let's do that. I like it kind of centered right up there. Cool, I love this card so much. This one was a ton of fun. So again, that same monochrome technique, but here I used some older Simon Hurley supplies. So I used that In Bloom layering stencil to create all of those gorgeous florals. And then I went in with the butterflies from the Beautiful Blooms, I believe it's called. Again, everything is linked down below with links, so if you were inspired by any of these products, you can always check them out. And then of course that beluga solar spray kind of over top of everything. You don't really see it until you tilt it, and it is just so stunning. It has just that little bit of shine that you need to a card. Sometimes people say that like the solar spray on white cardstock doesn't show enough, but I actually like that. That's a little bit more subtle than on black cardstock, because on black you get quite a bit more color from it. But I like that it's more subtle because you can really use it as an accent like this, where you just really see it when you tilt it in the light and you don't see it when it's straight on, which I think is so cool about that solar spray. So I love that so much. It was so much fun to be able to show you this card. And then also, let's see, where did I put my other card? My other card using that SBC Fest kit, and again doing monochrome with the grayscale. So super fun to do that, just using one ink for each one of these cards and creating such beautiful looks. I think it creates kind of a vintage card making effect, which is so much fun. So again, this was very inspired by Gina K's recent live where she did kind of grayscale cards as well. I have that linked down below, so after this live stream, you can check that out. Thank you all so much for joining me. It has been a ton of fun going live over the past couple of weeks. I'm definitely going to keep doing it. It's so much fun to see you guys all in the live chat and interact with you along during the live. I don't get to do it a ton because there's only one of me, so I can't read every single comment, but definitely try as I go throughout. And if you have any more questions, leave them down below after the live, and I'll be sure to respond to them in the comment section. Again, everything is listed and linked down below for your convenience. So if you've seen any of the supplies in today's video that you enjoyed, definitely check it out. And check out that SBC Fest kit before it sells out. They're in a very limited quantity right now. Once it's sold out, it's gone, and it's a limited time exclusive, so we're never making it again. So check that kit out if you want to. There is tons of inspiration already using it. And there's going to be even more inspiration on the day of SBC Fest on September 12th. I can't wait to see you guys there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys later this week for another card making and crafting video. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.